Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your astrology forecast for, oh, look what day it is. It is Hump Day, Wednesday, January 24th of 2024. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Let's go ahead and hop into these astrological transits so we can see how you can be better prepared to navigate these celestial energies. And sometimes I trip up on, my little intro there and stuff. Um, but anyways, like I said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. As far as today goes, there's not really a whole lot of major things going on today. It's really going to be more so the moon and Cancer making some aspects. We do have Mars, which is beginning its square to Chiron. Although that's not going to come exact. I don't have that on this calendar. So there are some things that I did miss on this calendar. To be fair, now that I'm thinking about it, it is going to be almost time to do the February report as well. So that will be coming out sometime soon. It either will happen this weekend if I can find some time, or it may even happen sometime next week on like one of my off days. So maybe that Tuesday when the moon is in the Libra, I'll do my February video. And I'll also have, of course, a trans calendar for that day as well. But as far as today on the 24th, there's not really a whole lot going on. We are coming off, of course, that very intense weekend that we had. Going into this last little bit of the month, we're going to see that full moon in Leo, which is going to happen on Thursday. The sun's going to square Jupiter on Friday. Then we got a couple things going on over the weekend, including back-to-back grand Earth trines to round out the month, heading into February. So let's go ahead and look at the chart itself, and then we will continue forward. So I have this set, of course, for 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As you can see, that moon in Cancer will be coming off of the square to the nodes. So that's going to be more of an overnight aspect. You're not really going to feel that, but you may have some dreams when it comes to some of these things, I guess. But, being that the moon is in Cancer, it's like I said, we're going to be waking up after this moment, right? So main thing is that the moon is going to be going into that last decan of Cancer today. We are going to see it make a nice little trine over to Neptune here at 25 degrees. Remember, trines equate to harmonizing energy. They are in harmony. So the moon and Neptune will be in harmony with this kind of energy. 25 degrees is the number of 7. Most of the aspects that have been happening to Neptune have been at the 7 degrees. So there's been a lot of things that have been coming up about spirituality. A lot of things have been coming up about the etheric, the not so obvious, the unseen world that is still there. The moon in Cancer is going to allow us to really feel into these aspects and hopefully even bring about some healing. We even do have a grand water trine here because we do have Pallas Athena here in Scorpio. So we have a minor asteroid here, right? But one of the major asteroids that we follow. And what's interesting about Athena herself is that Athena is sort of like this guardian kind of asteroid. She's all about strategy. She's all about the home base, meaning that she rules Athens. She's like a patron saint of Athens, hence why she's named Athena. So she's like a warrior goddess, a master strategist, being here in Scorpio, involved with this trine. This is about how can we strategize to kind of take things to that deeper level. Scorpio is very much so, it can be a very deep sign. It could be a rather emotional sign, but also it's like the fire sign of the water signs, if you will. Now, granted, being that this is in the decan ruled by the moon, and each of these planets is in the decan ruled by like something else. So like the moon is in the decan ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is in the decan ruled by Pluto, and Pallas is in the decan ruled by the moon. So it's an interesting dichotomy here with this grand water trine. So it's sort of like they are in, and the moon likes to be in Cancer too, but if you just look at the decans themselves. So there's this interesting reception that's happening with these three energies. And of course, we're probably going to be a little bit more focused on the moon because the moon is the most obvious of these energies. But there's this element that comes up as far as like, how can we strategize in our life? How can we utilize the depth of emotions that we may feel? How can we utilize this healing? And how can we really tap into spirit? How can we tap into source and be a little bit more open to what may not necessarily be as obvious to us, what may not be like as seen, if you will. Scorpio is about what's also unseen. Neptune, this is about that etheric, not so obvious, kind of, you know, a little bit out there kind of energy. You know what I mean? It's not as physical. And then, of course, you have the moon here in Cancer. I think it's about really finding comfort in this. So some of you guys, especially if you're a little bit more empathic, especially those of you that have a lot of water in your chart, you probably will feel this trine a bit more. And this, of course, is going to be happening. It's going to start. You'll probably start to feel it around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll last, a few hours, if you will. It'll probably last till about 9. So you'll probably feel it from about 4 to 9, where the energy, at least from a water standpoint, may be a little bit more up. So be on the lookout for that, especially being that a tough day. The other thing that probably is going to contribute to this is the fact that we do have Mars here in Capricorn at 15 degrees. It's actually going to be squaring over to Chiron as well. So that's going to add a bit of a sensitive element to this. There's an opportunity for some great healing, mind you, but there's going to be some sensitivities as far as like, okay, how can we build and take this to the next level? And how can we not hyper fixate on maybe our wounding or our traumas, or maybe the things that didn't work out for us in the past when it came to really expressing who we are with that Aries energy. Maybe you are afraid to be that raw, true, authentic self. Maybe you're afraid to kind of step up and be the leader in your life because, that's the other part about this with Aries, that they are kind of like these natural born leaders, if you will. There's a bit of naivety as well when it comes to Aries energy, because it is such a youthful energy. And of course, with Mars, the ruler of Aries now in Capricorn, where it's exalted, we have to be willing, I would say, to kind of examine and look at our life, and to not necessarily judge ourselves for maybe not being in a certain position or having maybe certain resources by this particular point in our life, and just kind of embrace and accept where we currently are, embrace the things that are working out for us. I think it'll be really easy to take a day like today, where there's a lot of energy focused on water, with this grand water trine that we're experiencing. It can be really easy to kind of get wrapped up and kind of be looking at the past and looking at, well, if I just did this thing, or if I had just taken that action in the past, maybe I would be further up this mountain, maybe I would be further along. But here's the thing, everybody is going to be experiencing this. That includes the people that you may be jealous or envious of. That includes the people that you think have made it to the top of the mountain. They too are going to be having these kind of thoughts, these kind of ideas, these kind of feelings that come up. So allow today to be one of those days where you kind of examine your feelings, you observe them, you sit in the feelings, but you don't just hold on to them. You allow them to kind of flow over you. You allow them to kind of pass through. The great thing is that the moon, like I said, is in Cancer, which is about direction. So how do we direct our energy? How do we direct that emotion? And how can we direct that emotion into creating something? Because the moon will come into Leo, where the full moon is. So there is going to be this massive release, this massive blockage that's going to be released now, so we can create the new thing, so we can actually utilize our imagination and not be afraid to step more into that Leo-like aspect and that Leo-like quality, right? We got to remember the sun, of course, still is here in Aquarius, so we have to go about it in a bit of an unorthodox way. We have to kind of go outside of the norm, if you will, in order to, I guess, manifest, if you will. Now, someone asked a very good question in the comments yesterday, was asking about what does out of bounds mean, and I'm about to explain that to you guys. Now, before I explain that, I want to just show you what, at least on this particular program that I use, how it shows what an out of bounds planet is, and it also will show like the speeds of the planets and everything like that, because there's different things. So, and I've shown you guys this screen before, but anytime that you see something that's going to be purple, at least I'm using Astro Gold, of course, it means that it's out of bounds, right? Now, out of bounds is going to be essentially about 23.5 degrees north or south of the equator. That means that a planet is out of bounds. And if you know anything about, and now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger in a second so I can show you guys on the actual globe too. A little bit of just general knowledge when it comes to astrology. Because this also will explain the equinoxes. This also explains the solstices that we experience every single year. But essentially, whenever a planet is out of bounds, it means that that energy is going to be a little bit more hyperbolic. It's going to be a little bit more exaggerated. So, for example, the moon in Cancer during this time is going to be out of bounds, meaning that its expression is going to be a little bit more hyperbolic. It's going to be a little bit more exaggerated. So emotionally, we're going to be a little bit more exaggerated when it comes to this. When it comes to how we feel about our home space, how we feel about just comfort in general, how we feel about security, how we feel towards the mother. These sort of things are going to be a little bit more exaggerated because this moon is going to be north in this declination, about 2 degrees or so above that 23.5 point. So I'm going to show you guys on the globe what that actually looks like, though. So I got my globe here, and hopefully I can get it to, all right, see, there you go. All right, so we have like these imaginary lines, right? So you have, of course, this Tropic of Cancer, right? You can see that, Tropic of Cancer, 23.5. And then, of course, you have the equator, and then down here you have the Tropic of Capricorn. Now, why are these lines named this? Well, the reason why they're named this is because now, when it comes to like looking at the sun's transit through its own ecliptic, this is what Western astrology is based off. It's based off of the seasonal transit of the sun through its ecliptic path, through the ecliptic path. Essentially, the Earth wobbles, right? The Earth wobbles, right? So what happens is that when the sun reaches what the summer is, like the summer solstice, what that essentially is that is the sun, that is the highest point on the globe, I guess, or on the earth, right? That is the highest line on the earth of latitude where the sun is directly overhead. So if the sun is directly overhead, it is the highest point on here that you can see the sun directly overhead. If it's a little bit further up, then it's going to be not directly overhead during the summer. But in the summertime, when the sun is directly overhead, the Tropic of Cancer is that northernmost point that can actually be viewed physically on the Earth. So that's why we call it the Tropic of Cancer, which is why summer starts during Cancer season. And on here is 23.5 degrees latitude north of the equator. So that's the summer solstice. The winter solstice is going to be the same, but for the bottom, for the Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 degrees south in declination compared to the equator. So when you get to the winter solstice, or I guess it's the reverse if you're in the southern hemisphere, but whenever you get to this point, this is the line of latitude, the southernmost line of latitude where the sun can be seen directly overhead during the wintertime, during that point. And then it will go back, right? So it goes back and forth between these two lines throughout the year. When it hits the equator, those are the equinoxes, right? The spring and fall equinoxes. So there's a reason why we have a Tropic of Cancer. There's a reason why we have a Tropic of Capricorn. So essentially, the sun will never be out of bounds. The sun can never be out of bounds, right? There are certain planets that can never actually ever be out of bounds. Now, the moon on a day like today means that it's going to be 25 degrees north. So it's actually going to be above this line, meaning that it is technically out of bounds compared to this wobble, if you will, which means that its energy is going to be a little bit more exaggerated. Mars had been out of bounds north for a long time. It comes back in bounds. It's either it came back in bounds on Tuesday or it definitely comes back in bounds on Wednesday. But that's just like a basic overview as far as that goes, what it means for a planet to be out of bounds. And like I said, it also explains the equinoxes and the solstices. So it's a science and a math. Most people don't realize that astrology is a science and a math, but it absolutely is. So it's interesting what they did today, especially with the moon being at home, right? It's in its home in Cancer. Yeah, it's a little bit out of bounds. So that's why things tend to be a little bit more emotional right here. Now, I have to observe astrology, especially when it comes to looking at out of bounds planets. I'm gonna have to observe this over time to see if the moon is always out of bounds when it hits Cancer, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. But I have to just kind of observe it. It's probably going to be different for different times of the year. But I have noticed here lately I've been peeping game that the moon typically is out of bounds when it hits Cancer, but that might just because of the time of year that we're in. So I'm gonna have to like kind of dive deep into that. Just as you guys are learning about astrology and I'm teaching you guys about astrology, I'm learning at the same time, right? I am learning, I'm discovering new stuff every single day. But that's essentially what an out of bounds planet is. Just know that if I ever mention a planet is out of bounds, it means that it is a little bit more exaggerated and it's a little bit more hyperbolic, if you will, the expression of that planet. Or you can even look at it as like a sports thing. Like if someone's out of bounds, like if football, if they catch the ball out of bounds, that play doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Or if like someone goes out of bounds, like playing soccer, or if the ball goes out of bounds in soccer or basketball, it means that the play essentially is over, right? So just think of it as that. Think of it as like that play doesn't count, right? Just think about it like that in a sense. So the moon being out of bounds, I wouldn't say to discount those emotions. I wouldn't say to discount those emotions that you're going to feel, but just know that that little bit of excess that goes outside of that 23.5 degrees north, just know that that little bit of excess, just be a tad bit much, maybe just kind of reel it in, kind of bring it back a little bit. I think that's really going to be the Neptune trine is going to kind of help to reel it in. Pallas Athena is going to help us to kind of reel it in, because Pallas Athena especially is going to want to kind of strategize and come up with like a game plan, on how to navigate and use our emotions and to use water in order to manifest, right? So allow that to kind of help to ring it back in, reel it back in and stuff. I think Wednesday can be a very positive day for healing, especially with such a nice little water trine. And then of course you have like that square with Mars and Chiron, but it's a balancing square. It's at 15 degrees. So you're inherently going to be looking for the balance in life. You're going to be inherently looking for where things can be a little bit more just in life, where things can be a little bit more fair in life. And people are going to, of course, be questioning justice and fairness when it comes to that square. So some people are going to maybe feel like things aren't fair. They're maybe looking at someone else and what someone else has and be like, oh, that's not fair. Look what they have. But then you have to still have that personal responsibility, that personal accountability that Capricorn is wanting to teach us. To kind of reel it in and be like, well, what actions have you taken in the past that have led you to this moment? Are there other actions that you could have taken that could have gotten you to a better situation, if you will? But also just do those things now, or just write it out and figure out what it is that you want to do now. You know what I'm saying? So I still had to do that little writing exercise about writing out what it is that you really want and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to do that here shortly. But yeah, like this is not a time to be looking at what other people have and what other people have going on and getting jealous and envious, because everybody is looking at everybody, to be fair. So it's probably best to just kind of focus on yourself, focus on the things that are working out for you, and focus on the things that you can create. You know what I mean? And you might have to think a little bit outside the box a little bit. You might have to go be a little bit more unorthodox in your approach, be a little bit more rebellious in your approach. But that's the time we're in. We are in Aquarius season, and Pluto's here in Aquarius as well. So that's where the major transformations are going to be coming from. So let's go ahead and hop into these cards. I hope I explained that well with the whole out of bounds thing. Just let me know if I explained that very well. So, and I kind of want to even do more just basic educational stuff with astrology, not just the videos like this. Obviously I do like the forecast, but like just like some basic overview stuff, like what does out of bounds mean, what does exaltations mean, and domiciles and falls, and what does all that mean exactly. So I want to start doing more stuff like that. I have to be diligent and actually I actually have to get down and like schedule these things out and write these things out and stuff like that. So I'm Jupiter in Virgo, 9th house, y'all. So it's like when it comes to like planning and stuff, I'm not necessarily the best at it. I'm really not. But when I do apply myself, I generally see great returns on that. So, well, I do have the Four of Swords, but it's in reverse. So it's interesting how I talk about today can be a great day of healing, but this Four of Swords is actually speaking to maybe you've been resting for too long. Maybe you have been chilling for too long. Maybe it's time to actually get up and do some of the work. Maybe it's time for you to not just kind of sit around and just be in la la land and think and be like super imaginative and always be in that space and always be in la la land. Maybe this is time to actually kind of get down and actually do some of the work. I also had that followed by the Six of Wands in reverse. Yeah, like I said, like we can be certainly feeling like we haven't really achieved the success that we want to or the victory that we want to, and we can definitely be in a comparison mode today. Comparison is seriously going to be the thief of joy on a day like today, because we're just going to be looking at what everyone else is doing, and we're going to be wondering like, well, what about me? Well, like, how come they have that? But it's like, well, it's their actions that take in the past, right? But I guarantee you that they have challenges that they don't tell you, or they don't tell really anybody, because why? I mean, we all have challenges that we all face that we don't necessarily tell every single person, right? Or not, at least in that moment. We're not just reporting every single challenge that we have like all the time, and people just are upload like we're just people are just connected to that like a RSS feed or something like that. But this is a time where do get down, do some of the work. You don't have to do everything right now. You know what I'm saying? But if you feel like you've taken some L's in life with that Six of Wands in reverse, if you're not really feeling the courage and the bravery to kind of you know if you are feeling a lack of courage and bravery, this full moon is going to help you. So like, even if you don't necessarily figure it out today, and you're not going to necessarily figure it all out, but just know that this full moon is coming, and there is a lion in this card too. You see him off to the side, right? So there is this full moon coming up is going to help to release some blockages that maybe have been holding you back. I'm hearing procrastination. This is not really a time to procrastinate. This is a time, I mean, this is a time to keep moving. Yeah, we are in Aquarius season, but Aquarius is still traditionally ruled by Saturn, and we still have Mars, Mercury, and Venus in Capricorn. So it's still very much so Capricorn time. It still very much so is Capricorn time. So, don't procrastinate. Get up, do some of the work. Don't compare yourself to others. Know that there is healing. Know that you can move forward. The past is the past. It's time to get it going, and you'll be all right. I have the Ten of Cups in reverse on the bottom. So Ten of Cups in reverse isn't bad. It just means that, yeah, maybe you want to feel better. I think it's good to want to feel better. I think it's good to want more for yourself. That's a good thing. It shows that you're not apathetic. It shows that you're not lethargic. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's showing. But at the same time, don't be overly concerned about figuring it out all today or figuring out everything today. Don't be in a rush to feel like you need to fix a lot of things today. Don't feel like you need to be in a rush to win or succeed. Just take the next obvious step. Maybe it's not so obvious, but just take the next step, and yeah, it'll be fine. Like, you'll be good. I think really it's just that little bit of degrees. What that moon is outside, out of its bounds. It's 25, 25 north 35. So it's like, it's just slightly out of bounds. It's not that much out of bounds, but it's still out of bounds. But like that little bit, that 2 degrees north, we can get so focused on that 2 degrees. We can get so focused on that small little detail emotionally, but that don't focus on that small little detail. Don't let that small little detail derail your entire day and derail your entire energy and your vibration, because that can be fixed, that can be worked through, and that's temporary. It's temporary. It's not something that you need to focus on too much. So try not to let the small things really get to you today. I have the card of perception. That's perfect, honestly, for a day like today. I have the card of perception. The frequency of perception supports our natural curiosity, moving us beyond our comfort zone to find the edges of what we perceive as real and to take a good, hard, deep look at it. Yeah, I think this is really what this is about. We have to, utilize that curiosity, but also push back our comfort zone. I think some people may be afraid to go outside of their comfort zone, but staying within that comfort zone is just going to keep them in the same energy, in the same place, comparing themselves to other people and feeling like they're constantly coming up short, and feeling like maybe some people feel like they can't rest with that 4 of Swords in reverse. Maybe some people feel like, all they do is work and they don't have an opportunity to rest. And this is just another day confirming that they have to just keep going at it. And I think it's like, what? But you have to make sure that the work is counting. You got to make sure that the work has meaning to it. And I think that's what people are searching for, is they're searching for meaning. It's not so much that, you know, people aren't working. It's like, but doesn't mean something. And I think that's really important. I think that's really what people are searching for, is there meaning in the work that they do? And if there's not, then maybe that's what we have to take that hard look at, you know, if it's not. So that is going to do it for your astrology forecast today. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Hope it assists you on your journey today. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If you'd like to have a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. And as always, y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful hump day, and I'll see you all on the next astrology forecast. Peace out.